Welcome everyone to the Beyond BDes podcast. And today I have our guest is Natalie Au, who graduated from UBC, I believe it is last year. I think that is correct. Maybe. Yeah. Okay.
Just earlier this May.
Oh,
Yeah.
early this May. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And she right now is completing her MArch at the University of Hong Kong. So before I get to that, I'll let Natalie do a bit more of an introduction on herself.
Hi everyone. I'm Natalie and I just completed the BDes program earlier this May. And right now I'm just in Hong Kong completing my Master's of Architecture. And yeah.
Cool. Well, I think this episode's going to be really interesting because everybody else that we've talked to, um, they go to interesting places, but it's in North America. So obviously, going somewhere across the world is going to be an interesting conversation to have. But before we talk about your application process to the University of Hong Kong, just wanted to talk a bit about maybe your start and interest in architecture and your experience getting into and being at UBC.
Okay, so I think for me, I decided pretty late that I wanted to join, like, to apply to an architecture program. So before high school, I was kind of in like the arts field. So I was like an art student, and I was planning to apply to like the visual arts or something related. And in grade 11, so actually the year I was going to apply to uni, I took this architecture course, and it really opened up a new world for me. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll try it out. And I got into UBC, so I was like, okay, might as well take a leap. Might as well like try it out. I don't know where it's gonna lead me, but like I was pretty glad I did it. So yeah, that was like kind of my application. Yeah. And I chose UBC because I think it provides a very diverse program. So like you get to experience like the architecture, the landscape, and the urbanism part. So for someone like me who doesn't really know what I really want to get into, I think the experience of having like all these fields really helps me with like navigating my future career or like if I want to like continue pursuing architecture for masters. So that's like one of the main reasons why I chose UBC for my undergrad.
Were there any other schools that you looked at for architecture, or was UBC the only one?
So I also applied to like other places, but one of like my main focus was like Canada because I do have family in Canada, so I was like leaning towards Canada. So it was either UBC or U of T, and I think because UBC has like this program where you can experience more, so I decided to go to UBC.
Nice. And do you have any particular classes that you took at UBC? Any studios that stood out, or any props or anything that stood out to you?
I think for me, the main program that stood out was the Go Global programs.
Hmm.
So I didn't apply for any exchange, which I really do regret. In going from third year transitioning into fourth year, like during that summer, I applied to two Go Global programs. So one was the Europe Study Abroad with Leslie. And
Hmm.
then I also joined a urban planning elective that was in Singapore. Like it's like an exchange, partly exchange with NUS students. So I think actually doing like real life field studies and actually being there and actually experiencing the place really changes your perspective on like how you see architecture and how you see urban planning. So I think that is one of the most memorable like experience for me. And then also I think going on these programs, it's like quite intense. So it's like it lasts from 2 to 3 weeks and you get to meet a lot of like new friends. And I think that is really precious, especially like when you're still in school. I think when you actually go into the work field, you don't get these opportunities. So I would say if you do have the chance, apply for those Go Global programs. I think they're really, really, really meaningful.
Oh, that's really good advice. And then just doing some research on you, I believe, did you also do Did you do like a term or an amount of time in a firm doing architecture internship? Is that correct?
Yes. So I did one internship during the summer,
Sure.
after my second year. It was only like I think 4 months long. So it wasn't that long, but it was more of like a construction company, so like a contractor company. And I think that was like provided me with a very, very different perspective because like at school we've been like designing, it's always everything so conceptual, and being in a construction company really sets me in like a very like practical and technical place where I kind of realize what I lack.
Hmm.
So I think that's also like a reason why I decided to apply to HKU, because I do realize that when you're actually working, the structural part is very important. And I think HKU is a place where they do focus a lot on like the practical elements, and they really prepare you to enter the working field. So I think it's nice to have like different experience in different aspects. So not just like in design firms, but also in like construction firms.
Interesting. Yeah, I think when I talked with Vivian, I believe she did she did an exchange to HKU, I believe. And it's interesting that the work that she decided to include in her portfolio from HKU was a very like structural, much more like technical drawing. So it's quite interesting to see what the different universities kind of offer. That's great. So you were getting towards the end of your undergraduate and you were starting to think about universities, and obviously you ended up going to HKU. But were there any other schools or any other considerations of places you were thinking about going to?
So for me, I kind of chose places based on where I want to build my future career on. So I think I ended up in HKU because it's closer to home. So I was thinking of like maybe working in Asia. So that's why I decided that I wanted to apply to HKU. But um, another thing that I considered was like what I want to learn. So if my values really align with the university I'm applying to. So I think through this process, like looking up their websites is really important. I go through like university Instagram pages. I look at like student works. I see like if the things they're doing is what I want to learn and like what I'm lacking or what I need. So I think my main the main places I applied to was Canada and Asia. So it's either or, but I decided that I might want to come back to Asia for work, and the accredited like if you want to get like your license, you also have to consider like the schools because the program in Canada might not be as flexible in transitioning into like maybe like an environment like Hong Kong, because the things you learn are really different. So I think considering that would also be a very important element.
Now when it came to, so did you only apply to Hong Kong, or did you ended up applying to multiple
I
universities?
also applied to UBC, U of
UBC.
T, and applied to two universities in Hong Kong. Yeah,
Sure.
those were my main focus.
Did you find that the application processes were they really different for all of them, or did they all kind of be very similar?
I think in terms of material, they are quite similar, but there are very specific details that are very different. So every university kind of have very specific requirements on like their portfolios, or like for example their statements, they might ask for different things. So I think the overall framework is very similar, but you might need to dive into the details and like make small changes to every single portfolio or like your statements to kind of match the university you're applying to.
I think now would be, I guess, a good point. We can jump into your portfolio, which we're very happy to have you share with us today.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Okay, I think you can see.
Yes.
Okay. So, this is my portfolio, and um, in terms of like selection of work, most of my like the focus of my portfolio is more on like studio projects because I do think these projects are more like thought out and there's like more depth in these projects. So um my first three projects are all like studio projects, and then the ones here are more of like other works showing like maybe other abilities that I have. And yeah, let's go through. So, I also try to include like a range of different projects. So I have one project from my second year, one from my third year, and one from my final year. And I also try to include like all architecture, landscape, and urbanism because like I think that's like one of the main essence of our program. So that's something that I try to do. And so yeah, so this one is a project from my second year. It's like focusing on form. So how like the apparatus is then transformed into a diagram, and then how the diagram then turns into a model, and from the model how it becomes like an actual building. So I think yeah. And then this one is like my third year project, which is like the housing one, I believe you're working on right
Yep,
now.
I'm in the middle of this one right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one thing I learned while talking to some of my classmates here in HKU is that don't include so much text. So I think for admissions, they won't be reading all the text you have. I think they would focus more on like diagrams. So you don't need very complex diagrams, but something visual would be way better than having text. Like one good visual will speak way more than your text. So make sure to not include so much text. And another thing is, so like especially like this spread right now, there are too much going on. Like just looking back at it, I realized that it's too much. So some tips I've got is that people tend to only include like around two diagrams on each spread. I think maybe max it out three or four, because when you have too much on your page, like people don't know where to look at. You kind of lose focus. And especially the ones on like the right corner, those three diagrams are too small. Like people won't be able to like read it. So instead of like trying to cram everything on one page or like include everything, like I know everybody wants to be like, oh, I made this drawing, so I really, really want to put it in. But I think being more selective on what you include is very important because nobody's gonna look and read through all of this. So I think making it easy, understand, and easy to read is one of the important aspects of a portfolio. So yeah, I think still a bit too many words, but blowing up your drawings would help. And so yeah. And yeah. So this one is my fourth year project, which is one with Mari focusing on like urban design. And this one was a focus on like UBC. So we were designing a building with like multidisciplinary programs, and my focus was on water and trees. So yeah, this is kind of, and for me, I have like another interest in like photography. So I do include like a lot of photographs to kind of show like, oh, I have like other abilities. Yeah. And this one is a project, it's a group work project in Leslie's class where we did a case study on a building and analyzed the building and translated that into a model. So this one for me, I really included like a lot of like photographs Yeah. And then these ones right here are more like other projects where I did in my visual arts class. So also showing what other things I'm interested in. This one is like a class with Daniel, and we did like it's also a group project where we analyzed like the glazing, different glazing types in Vancouver. So it's more like a fun project. And then the last one's also like another visual arts project that I have. Yeah, and that's about it for my portfolio.
Well, thank you so much for showing. If you can just leave it on for a second, I just have a few like questions or stuff I just want to talk about. I mean, either I guess could you just go back to like the first page if possible?
Yep.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Perfect.
Fish.
I really I think of all the people that I've seen and have interviewed so far in this, I don't think anybody's had a title. Like normally it's just portfolio, it just says selected works, that sort of thing. And I think yours is the first person that has a title that says the Reimagine Tomorrow. I just want to know um how you came to that title and if you saw other people or what inspired you to put a title on your portfolio.
So for me, I kind of have like a central concept with all my projects. So I have this like one theme about reimagining tomorrow that ties everything together. So it's like a thread that ties throughout that I also linked back to my statements.
Hmm,
So my statement and my portfolio kind of work together. Um, so I think one thing that I think is really important is always to have like a central concept. Because if you have a central concept, it's really easy to describe and like sell your projects and what I think it's easier to convey what you want to say when everything is tied together. So I kind of have like this theme of reimagining tomorrow and everything else through like in my application kind of expands off from that. Yeah.
that's really cool. And I think yeah, it kind of it nicely like themes everything. And you like, do you explain that? You said that in your mission statement. Is that like in the portfolio when you open it up, or is that like separate when you're submitting?
So for statements, you submit them separately.
I see.
But I refer a lot back to my portfolio, so that's why I try to tie everything together with
Sure.
this one concept. Yeah,
Cool. Can you just like go slowly through and maybe I'll like I think there was something else I just want to point through and if
sure.
and I noticed, at least in the first like three assignments, I feel like you, for the most part, kept to like a um really minimal like color palette, and like blue seems to be of an accent color. And was that just, is that your like favorite color, or did you kind of make it so it's consistent for your portfolio?
So I actually did not consider the color palette for like my portfolio. It was actually like an accident.
Okay.
Like, happy accident though. Um, I think blue just kind of ties on with a lot of the concepts I was working on. So like for example, this one I was working on water.
Mm,
So it makes sense to use like blue.
sure.
And then for my housing project, I was talking about like time and how to slow down time. So I want to use more settling color, something more calm, and somehow blue was like the color. So yeah, these colors just somehow came together. So I think yeah, and I do really like gray, so I do have a lot of gray throughout, and that kind of just tied everything together.
Yeah, I'd say it's really nice. I think a lot of times, even for me, I have a hard time like trying to like tie all the projects together. And I was like, oh, if I could just go back and like, because there's always a highlight color, but I feel like I try to switch it up every single time. And I'm like, if I could find a way to make it more consistent, it would probably flow nicer. So that's cool to look at. And then could you just go to the just a few projects up ahead? I
Um,
think I might have been the one with like, I just wanted to look more at the one with Daniel Rohr, and then maybe the last project. I just found those really
yep,
cool to look at.
this one.
Yeah, this is really cool. I think this is like quite. I like it a lot because it's so different. And I'm assuming that's probably why you kind of put it in there, just because it's so different than a typical like architecture.
So this one, I didn't include it as like a very complete um project because it doesn't really show design thinking,
Mm,
but like as you said, it's really different and it really shows what like we've been exploring throughout the years, and it really shows like um how we can incorporate something more fun, like having the Smiskies in their model.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so I think like this is a project I really enjoyed doing. So I really wanted to include this one as well, but I also know that it's not a very complete one. It's not like very design based, it's more like analysis based. So I decided to put it and include it as my others project.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then just I think it's the last project is the
This one?
yeah, could you
Or
just like talk on this one? I'm just very curious about it because again, it's different than just like your typical like architecture like plan section.
yeah, so I don't know if you recognize this place, but it's
I do.
EDC.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for this assignment, it's like the visual arts elective. And I think our theme was to do something about erasure. So erasing something. And at the time, I was in my second year and I was like, oh, what should I do? And then I was in EDC, I was sitting on this chair, and I don't know if you guys like those chairs, but I don't.
No, I can tell you right now, no one likes those chairs.
Yeah, they are very uncomfortable. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna erase these chairs. So, and like since I'm studying architecture, I yeah, I'm like interested in drawing like buildings and interiors. So I decided that I want to capture this moment in EDC without the chairs. So this is like a pointillism drawing. So using points to create like shadows and light. And so yeah, this is more like a fun project. It's not really design based as well, so it's also part of like my others.
Wait, is it actually like this is not digital? Like this is analog?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God. That's so impressive. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Great, great, great. I was like, yeah, like that's a cool photo. And then I was like looking at the side and I was like, wait, no, like that's the development of it. Okay, that's really cool.
Thank you.
Perfect. Cool. Well, thank you for showing that. Is there any other pages or just the end page?
That's the end
End
page.
page?
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. Yeah, if you just want to stop sharing, then we can continue the convo. Perfect. Great. Yeah, that's really cool to see, and it was nice to see like the different mediums. And yeah, to me, I think I really am interested in that title that you had for it in the central theme. Did you? So is that the exact portfolio that you use for HKU?
Yeah, so that's like the portfolio I use for HKU, and like well, as previously mentioned, I tilted some projects based on the requirements of the school. So some do have like very tight page limits. Some
Sure.
are like 10, some are 20.
Mhm.
So you kind of have to like to change according to that. But that's kind of like the basic framework or like the basic one I used.
And do you have any like, do you have any more tips? Obviously, we talked about like you talked about the text. Is there any other sort of like tips about or advice you have about putting your portfolio, anybody putting their portfolio together? And then also another question to add to that is, did anybody give you any bad advice about portfolio making? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, okay, okay. So I think one of the main advice I would give is time management. So I would say start as early as possible. Always have like a working portfolio. So from my own experience, I started working on my portfolio. So I had like a working portfolio, but of course, like every time you look at it, you would be like, oh, I really need to change certain things. So for my application portfolio, I didn't start till mid or like late October. And once you hit like November, school gets really busy. So then at that time, I was struggling to work on my portfolio, and then work on schoolwork at the same time. So I would say, if possible, start during the summer. So like working on like one project per month would be pretty good. So you can like take your time, you can like reflect on it and like really like if you need to make like big changes, you do have the time to do it because once you start your final year, you get really, really busy. So always start early and also try, I would say try to have your portfolio done by November because I know most deadlines are in December or January, but you do need to send your portfolio to your references. And I think giving them some time would be nice because they are also really busy. So being able to like finish everything by November and then sending out your statements and your portfolio to them would help them and also help you as well. So yeah, time management. And I think one advice I got was that someone told me to actually try to include as much as possible. So that is not the case because I think from that person's perspective, so it's actually a friend of mine who is actually like working right now, but for them, I think during their time of application, it's quite different. I think it's also like we're from a different generation. So yeah, so things change.
Yeah.
And for them, probably at their time, they do try to include as much as possible because they do really want to showcase all of their work, and everything they have. But for us, I think it's more about like clarity and like really choosing what is the most important. So make sure that like every drawing does tell a story. Like every drawing has a meaning. So don't include it because it looks like nice. Everything should tie together. It should tell a story. And yeah, I don't think you need that much drawings. And I think universities try to limit the amount of pages you have because they want you to be more selective. So they don't want to see like 100-page portfolio with like every single drawing you have. Like that won't help them nor help you. But um, like just understanding what you need is important.
Yeah, I can say definitely we've had a few conversations with different profs about portfolios. We actually for Dennis, we just had a portfolio workshop last week. And one of the advice someone gave, like might have been Daniel or might have been Susan, who was also there, was, two really good projects are better than 10 okay ones. And I think that's really important to hear because sometimes you just want to fill it in with everything. And it's no, just go with like the best of the best to really showcase yourself.
Yeah, and I think also probably including some process work. Um, I do not have a lot of process work, which is something that I do need to improve on, but like make sure you document everything. Because I remember Leslie telling us that like all your projects are like technically process work. Even during final review, like it's still an in process project. Even if like your building's actually built, it's still under some sort of progress because things do change. And so don't be afraid to include like in your sketches or like really rough models. I think that also helps people understand your process a bit more and like how you're thinking. So yeah, include those as well.
Well, thank you for those tips. And then we're almost near the end of this conversation, but if you wanted to just spend a few minutes, maybe just describing your experience so far at HKU, and then maybe describe a little bit of like how the class flow and how your university is kind of like set up in terms of architecture for anybody who's interested in going to HKU.
Okay, so I think for HKU, the main difference is like what you learn. So I think for UBC, it's very conceptual based. HKU, especially in masters, is very practical. So we do have like courses that actually prepare us for like the licensing exams. So I think that is super, super useful. So also like looking back at like um, university websites. So seeing, what you want to learn. So for me, this was like really helpful. And I think workload wise, definitely way busier than undergrad. Like I don't think I've seen the lights turn off in studio. I know it's like really insane, but yeah. And I think one of the main differences is that in a master's program, studio is I think the thing. Like everybody is busy on studio and every other class is revolves around studio. So other classes are kind of structured to help you with studio in a way. So that's pretty nice, but most of our time is basically dedicated to just studio. And in terms of like studio options, for us, we had like 17 options to choose from and they're all like they range from like very practical to very conceptual. And I think these years, because of how like AI is emerging, we do have studios that focuses on AI, which is pretty interesting. And HKU also offers like a lot of like abroad opportunities. So our studio went to like Italy to kind of like look through like this like my studio is focusing on Pouchet. So our studio went to Italy to kind of like look at different buildings and also like applying theory into the real world. So that's what I have been working on right now. Yeah.
Fun. And how big are how big is like your, I guess, like your master's level like class, and then per like studio, how many people are kind of in each of the studios?
So right now I'm actually having studio with first year masters and second year masters. So in total right now we have 200 people from both years together. And for each individual studio we have around like 12 people per studio, so not a lot. Yeah, so I think that in that way the professors can really help on like one-on-one and they have like a really close connection with you.
Well, well, this has been really helpful today and really interesting insights. Do you have any other tips or anything else you'd want to say before we end it off today?
Well, I just want to say have as much fun as possible you could when you're doing your undergrad. I think UBC is just like so open and like the professors are so open-minded. Like you get to experience so many different things, like especially like for your thesis project. Um, I think I had Bill as my thesis instructor. Bill is so open. You can like do anything you want. So have as much fun as possible, because once you step into like your master's, everything is more serious, everything is more practical, and you're technically preparing for work in a way. So I think explore, yeah, just spend as much time to explore and also like explore your own style, your own workflow, yeah, and have fun.
I think that is a great way to end this episode. Well, thank you so much, Natalie, and I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. Thank you.
Thank you.